Morning, everybody. Economic Ninja here. Hey, we got an interesting story out of the hedge. I'm going to link it in the description below. First, I want to start off with this. It's about food and inflation. 3 or 4 months ago, I started talking about lumber. I was telling you about what would happen to lumber prices, to not worry about the spike in lumber prices. And back then, it was about halfway up the mountain as far as the futures price was concerned. It was about $1,200 for 1,000 board feet. I said, don't worry. I started explaining economic cycles along with inflation trends and said, don't worry, it could probably go up higher from here, but it's going to come crashing down. And that's what we're seeing right now. I'm going to be putting out this next week my official dollar whippet theory, and so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. But I said that one of the big reasons that lumber was going to collapse in price was because, and it was at the end of one of my videos, and I gave a warning. I said that people are going to care less about building an addition on their house or a deck or a fence. These are going to care more about putting gas in their cars and food on their plates. And the facts are, I'm so far completely correct. Fuel is rising across the nation. It's really rising in certain areas, but it's rising across the nation. And yes, I understand that a lot of that is due to yearly trends, supply and demand, but we are seeing the price of a barrel of oil really start to rise. Taxes don't seem to be letting up on fuel, and we're seeing food increase. And I saw this story, and I wanted to go over it with you. It says it's entitled "Grocery Prices Could Rise 10 to 14% by October." So now they're giving dates, right? And then I'm going to explain at the end how this is actually it's actually worse than what they're explaining. This is from a grocery chain CEO. It says American families are already struggling amid mounting price inflation that's eating away at their budgets, with higher costs of housing, vehicles, and more. Yet a top CEO is warning that the growing inflation problem facing Americans can get much worse in the coming months. All right. Now remember, I told you, I gave you by the end of mid to end of summer, when the food and fuel was really going to start increasing. And like you guys saw from an earlier video, with that massive cold snap that hit Central America, we are now seeing a coffee crop completely die off in a matter of days. Just a few days, coffee crop's completely dead. And you're going to see a massive spike in prices of coffee in the coming weeks as well. It's going to take time to get through the supply chain. It says here the latest data, June data, shows that a price inflation is at a 13-year high, with prices having seen risen 5.4% year over year. Guys, that's a huge number, because I'm going to explain this as clearly as I can, very simply. The government's not telling you everything about price inflation. That's why it seems like things are going up more than 5% a year, okay? The CPI, which is the cost price index, does not account for everything in your life. They also have, over the years, dwindled it down to they've taken all kinds of interesting things out of it, okay? Proponents of the big government policies driving much of the increase insist on an uptick in prices, that the uptick in prices is only temporary. I agree, it is temporary, but when I say temporary, we're talking about probably a year to a year and a half, maybe 2 years long in inflation before the government and Federal Reserve does anything about it. I want to explain this very clearly. Inflation trends throughout recent history, and I'm talking about within the last 60 years, do not change. They do not reverse course until there is government or Federal Reserve intervention. End of story. They don't just figure themselves out. And what I'm explaining about the inflation issue is more than a supply chain crunch causing deeper demand issues. I'm talking about monetary policy that's causing the inflation, okay? So you just literally have the icing on the cake. You have monetary policy, and you have supply chain disruptions is literally the icing on cake that I believe is going to make the late 70s look like a cakewalk. How do you like that? All right, so a CEO just warned that his industry is seeing skyrocketing costs on the supply chain side, and that businesses will have to raise prices for consumers as a result. Now, I want you to explain. Now, the CEO said skyrocketing prices. That doesn't sound like 10 to 14%, okay? And this is getting to my end where I explain how this is really going to go down. The CEO said that food prices are getting higher, and we expect even more increases by October. And you'll see the name of the CEO is John Catsimatidis. It's a long last name. He is, yeah, you'll be able to check the article. He says you have to pass those extra costs on to consumers, or you're not going to do your duty to God, your country, your employees, and your company. That's an interesting way of putting it, doing your duty to God by increasing prices. And I get it, it's not his fault, it's the supply chain, right? Everyone's increasing their prices. So it says, I'm going to end with this and then I'll give you my commentary. While we can't know for certain, the CEO said rising costs could mean an astounding 10 to 14% specific increase in grocery store prices by October. All right, I'm going to end there. You guys can check out the article. Earlier in the article, he said, and he was quoted as saying that prices are going to skyrocket. They're skyrocketing, right? Okay, and then in the end, he's like 10 to 14%. I want to explain that this is damage control right now being done by one CEO, and you're about to see more CEOs of large grocery store chains start coming out and warning you, hey, this isn't our fault. Hey, it's everybody else's fault. Hey, it's going to be 10 to 14%. And guess what? Hey, it's going to be a lot more than 10 to 14%. Honestly, this is how companies put out, you know, I would almost call it propaganda, but they're just like lightly, you know, salting the situation with information going, hey, we see something up ahead. And then when it happens, like, we told you, yeah, but you only said it was 10 to 14. Like, what? How do we know? There's so many issues. And that's why I'm very adamant about telling you, do your grocery shopping a month or two ahead. That's something that I think people go, what can I do to, you know, save myself from this or take advantage of this situation? Taking advantage of this situation means saving money. Start doing your food preparations, your meal planning, when you can buy, you know, canned goods, things that last, right? On the shelves, cereals, things like that. Buy them a month out. So then you've always got your inflation. You've already saved 1 month of inflation. And I'm not joking when I say, when we read stories of the Weimar Republic in Germany or Venezuela or all these places, they have this time where things are going good, everyone's excited, and all of a sudden just prices start to uptick, and they start this move, and it's called a parabolic curve. And in inflation and hyperinflation trends throughout history, you see things, it's okay, all right, fine, things are getting a little expensive. Oh, whoa, why are prices getting so high? And then it's doing this. Well, if you're a month ahead, you've saved that block of inflation, that percentage, because you're ahead of the game. And hopefully that blow off top that's vertical, it's absolutely nutty. You've already stocked up and you're able to ride out that super crazy straight up and down hyperinflation period in prices with stock that you already have, food, all kinds of things. And then what you're doing is, while everybody else their prices skyrocketing high, you're out there offering to buy their stuff, their RV camper, their fancy car, those kind of things. Why wouldn't you? Honestly, why wouldn't you? Because those are the people that didn't pay attention like you are. You're on this channel right now. And thank you, by the way, for everyone that's putting the thumbs up, the likes, and that are taking this video and sharing it on any platform you can. Because you want to do your part to share and warn people. Even if you don't have, like, let's say, have a voice like me to warn people, you want to take these videos and share them. And then your conscience is clear. You do everything you can to help people. And then when they don't want to listen, they laugh at you. You just buy their stuff. And that's how it's going to work. And you're going to see this happening sooner than we think, actually. So with that being said, I thank you for your time. The Economic Ninja is out.